Governments throughout history have done some really shady and downright illegal activities. Whether it was that one protest that never happened in China in 1989, or the Holocaust, or the Rwandan Genocide, or the Soviet Gulag system, or any of the other hundreds of atrocities to choose from, the stories of these events come out to the public. The United States' CIA alone has taken many questionable actions. There's a field of different events we can choose from, but in this video, we're going to focus on one specific, very strange program, Project MKUltra. Welcome to Knowledge Bait. In 1953, the Cold War between the capitalist United States and the communist Soviet Union was a topic on everyone's minds. Rumors were spreading that the Soviet Union and other communist countries were using mind control techniques to get information out of their own citizens and prisoners of war. The CIA started this program to develop mind control techniques to gain an advantage over the USSR. The program's goal was to develop techniques and drugs that would be used to manipulate individuals' thoughts, emotions, and behaviors for intelligence gathering and military purposes, similar to those of the communists, or at least that's what the rumors were saying. Some of the specific substances that the project focused on were those that, quote, will promote illogical thinking and impulsiveness to the quote where the recipient would be discredited in public, promote weakness or distortion of the eyesight and hearing facilities, enhance the ability of the individual to withstand privation, torture, and coercion during interrogation and so-called brainwashing, and even a knockout pill that would provide full anesthesia. Once the program began, the CIA purchased possibly millions of doses of a drug called LSD. This drug is a highly effective psychedelic that in small doses causes intensified emotions and thoughts, while high doses bring high body temperature and all kinds of hallucinations. Sidney Gottlieb, poison expert and lead chemist at the CIA, believed that LSD's mind-altering properties could be used to the advantage of the Americans for brainwashing and psychological warfare. Now you might be thinking these tests were done in some remote Area 51 type place, but no, they were done at notable universities around the country like Stanford and Columbia. The CIA performed such tests on mental patients, prisoners, drug addicts, prostitutes, and in one case a Kentucky man that had the drug administered to him for a consecutive 174 days. A notable sub-project of this sub-project of Project MKUltra was Operation Midnight Climax. In this test, government-employed prostitutes brought unsuspecting men to safe houses where LSD would be administered, unbeknownst to the men of course, and the agents would observe the effects the drug had on the subjects. Interestingly, there are a few individuals who participated in MKUltra experiments, but they are known for other reasons. One of these people is Ted Kaczynski, whom you may know as the Unabomber. Kaczynski spent 17 years of his life mailing bombs all across the country to bring attention to the eroding environment because of human intervention. Another notable participant of MKUltra was a man by the name of James Joseph Whitney Bulger, leader of the White Hill Gang north of Boston and convicted felon of 19 counts of murder, among other things. This guy has had one of the highest wanted rewards out for him. So everything that we've talked about so far was done in the United States, but the extent of MKUltra was international. During the late 50s and early 60s, a Scottish psychiatrist, Donald Ewan Cameron, led Montreal-based experiments at McGill University. Cameron strove to cure schizophrenia by reprogramming the psyche and used his method of psychic driving to do it. Some say Cameron was unaware that the money he was receiving to conduct these experiments came from the CIA itself. Cameron's experiments used paralytic drugs to induce comas for weeks, while playing simple statements or noises over and over and over again. The experiments also use electroconvulsive therapy, which was used way too powerfully, that puts people into medical seizures to cure anxiety or depression. As for Cameron's psychic driving method, patients would listen to repeated messages for hours a day for 10 consecutive days. These messages were simple but personal negative messages. Then the same experiment would happen again, but with positive messages. People put through these horrible experiments came to the institute to be cured for depression or schizophrenia. They never signed informed consent forms and were unaware of the actuality of advertised treatments. While often suffering from retrograde amnesia, which is where you are unable to recall past events and information and are unaware of this inability, patients would be commonly left in a childlike state and often had to be potty trained, retaught how to speak, and suffered from urinary incontinence. In one case, a 33-year-old patient named Gene Steele had undergone several treatments of electroconvulsive therapy along with 23 days of drug-induced sleep. While awake, she apparently had shown aggressive behavior towards the staff. Dr. Cameron believed that Jean, often called Jeannie by her husband, watching a movie about hostilities would help her work them out, a practice more widely used with young children rather than adults. According to her file, she had threatened to kill herself, asked the staff to, quote, please turn down the loudspeaker, and, quote, complained about burning in ears and her feet, and exclaimed that she felt like she was being nailed to a cross. A direct quote from Jeannie while staring at a loudspeaker in the hall or her room was, quote, that thing up there, up on the wall. My ear is burning. My ear is not burning, but that tries to make up my mind. That's not my mind. Is that my mind? End quote. After being discharged after 6 months of this absolute hell, Jeannie would spend hours sitting in the dark or alone in her room. On one occasion, she rearranged the patio furniture and placed sticks wrapped in tinfoil on the chairs, saying it was Sherbrooke Street, the street where she was tortured at McGill. Additionally, she took other irrational actions at her home, like spray painting her white living room ceiling with red swirls and spray painting a toilet seat silver. Her daughter, who brought her mother's story to light, reported that her mother was, quote, present, end quote, and could somewhat function as a human being, but couldn't explain what had happened to her at McGill or conduct actions requiring critical thinking. The full extent of MKUltra's activities and the number of individuals who were affected are still not known, as many of the program's records were destroyed when the program was officially terminated in 1973 in the wake of the Watergate scandal and a huge push to root out government corruption and international law violations. In 1974, the Gerald Ford administration launched an investigation known as the Rockefeller Commission, and the Senate launched its own investigation into CIA illegal activity. Over the next 3 years, revelations about MKUltra and other illegal activities by the CIA were brought to the surface of these commissions. Project MKUltra remains one of the most controversial and disturbing chapters of the history of the United States intelligence community, and serves as a cautionary tale to the dangers of unchecked government power and the importance of ethical research practices. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please subscribe and watch this video on your screen.